Welcome back, boys. It's DestinysJesus. In today's video, I'm looking at how you guys can consistently earn every single week in solo cash cups. And instead of looking at a top tier pro player that has, of course, insane fighting mechs and insane aim, instead I'm looking at somebody who literally had $0 earned in February of this year, which is Jake Buka. If you guys don't know Jake Buka, and to be honest, I didn't until he messaged me the other day. He basically has earned, if you look at this, he has literally earned so much in solo cash cups since February, March, April, all those seasons, and he's already earned in the first cash cup of the season. Of course, this is a plug for the masterclass. You guys should know this by now, but he got the masterclass and he learned a lot from it. So if you want to go get the masterclass and get your earnings like Jake Buka did, then go do it. But in this video, I'm going to show you guys exactly what he did to get his earnings up. And now he's already at 1.2k earned in 4 months of actually playing solos properly and just winning games non-stop in these victory cash cups. So let's get straight into this. First things first, for off-spawn, a lot of people think just because you're going ahead and dropping in a solo drop spot means you have to fight and kill the other person. However, I think a lot of the times trying to win your 1v1 off spawn isn't worthwhile, even if there's kill points like an opens here, and you're much better off just disengaging and trying to spot something that's uncontested. Mainly because in solos, there's always going to be some type of a POI or some split that's unlooted, just because of how like random 100 people dropping in at the chosen drop spot is. So you can see here, he gets some surge strikes, he gets his brick up just in case somebody does fight him. He can easily play a defensive fight. And here he runs into lonely. It's only one other player here, and he gets very stacked very quickly. And then now he's basically set up for his entire game just by disengaging from that off-spawn fight. Right here, a lot of people would play this differently, and Jake Buka actually shows something really well. Is he gets hit down to absolutely 1 HP. He's already used a lot of his match trying to get the bot earlier, and what he does is simply put just build absolutely loads and just waste all of his mats disengaging from this other player and trying to play out this game. There's no reason to throw away games, especially in finals where you only get 3 games, but this is opens. There's no reason to throw away games and play bad habits. So you can see he just full dips from this guy. Finally is able to get away from him slightly and actually trade some shots in, which is a little bit healthier. Gets his big pot off. And a lot of people would think, oh, here, I need to go ahead and throw my game away and try to kill this guy. But instead, he's completely happy disengaging and waiting for his cash to spawn because he knows that's going to set him up so well. In the current meta, it's so easy to get your wood and brick back, and you get 300 metal from your cash. So you simply put, slides straight to his cash, gets it first because he's the only one panning over there from where he was at. And then now spends a little bit of time refarming, as you can see, gets his mats back up a little bit, and he's basically set up for the rest of this game again, even though he got heavily griefed. The most important skill that you can learn for solos is just having good defensive ability. Like right there, he managed to survive with only 600 mats and only on 10 HP, just because he knows how to play defensively, he knows when to go for peaks, and finally it gets some pressure off him. And as well, it does a very good job of just making his game a lot more stabilized by running around farming up mats, and then also not wasting too many of his heals early on, and getting those shield plants as well as he rotates around. Now this right here is a game from finals where he actually managed to make earnings again, and something that I find very useful that he does here is he's not just sitting like center zone boxed up where all these other players are. As you can see right here, he's actually gone over towards slightly dead side. He landed over here in brutal, wrapped around, and actually went through the middle of zone and got over here towards dead side to just refarm his mats. He did overexpose himself slightly as he was doing it, but now as you can see, he's got complete freedom to just refarm all of his mats, get himself as stacked as possible, and even potentially take a free 1v1 if he beams somebody on this side of zone, as you can imagine. And then now as he comes into zone, he's still able to just refarm his mats, get himself into a good position right here. And then as the next zone pulls up, so this is 5th going into 6th zone, which is of course the partial zones, you can imagine wherever zone goes, he has an easy wrap around the edge to get into that next zone. Whereas all these other players, that even though they're in a decent position in the middle of zone, such as this guy right here, he's in a good position, he's with decent mats, right? He's not able to easily rotate to this next zone because he's rotating to the center. Whereas Jake right here, as you can see, he is able to completely freely rotate, refarm his mats as he goes, and get himself nice and early into a good position. Actually not on edge, but a little bit deeper towards the center zone, so his rotate for next zone is going to be freer. Also very nicely here is he boxed up on this shield thing right here, which actually regenerates. It gives you 25 shield, and it regenerates as well if you have to use it, so he can easily trade some tags to people and be 100 HP before he has to rotate every single zone. This right here is a very challenging rotate to do for the majority of the lobby, but Jake Buka has played this season enough. He knows how the map is working, and he actually knows that this guy right here is boxed up on a rift. So he builds towards him and he waits, and then basically all this guy has to do is try to activate a puzzle. It's like 50% chance, it normally happens on the second chance, and as you can see here, he rifts. Everyone else is running to the zone. They don't know whether this rift just popped in, and Jake Buka is able to get it completely for free and then dive towards zone. One very nice thing that you can do this season, because we've only got MKs, there's no red dots in the game, is you can actually just float around at max height, and it's quite unlikely you get beamed or take a lot of damage. And then, as you can imagine, is go towards this north expanding side right here, and you can basically land on dead side and be able to refarm even more of his mats. So exactly what he does, lands down here, refarms his mats, it's in a really good position, and also is able to get some of his metal back up from knowing where those barrels are. Now, because he put himself with that rift towards dead side, whatever the next zone pulls, he's got a free rotate to it. And as you can see here, he's already gone ahead and built some extra brick boxes towards front side, and he's basically in zone already, perfectly set up to do well this game. And then just take a look at his map management, absolutely perfect. He's so good on mats at this point compared to everybody else in the lobby that he is in a high chance of winning this game just based on mat conservation alone. Now, one of the biggest changes I would say in this current meta compared to before is, of course, no siphon being removed for these solo cups. And that's why I think it's really important to try to potentially go for a kill on a stone. So as everybody's rotating in here, if you get in there early, or you go ahead and get a kill on somebody that's boxed up next to you, catch them off guard, it's really worthwhile doing. Right here, I honestly think probably just capitalize on this loot. Harry doesn't quite go for it. You've got to remember, he still has very good mats. He's no need to throw this game away. But I still think you should be active and looking for a kill exactly like what he's doing. In another game that I watched, Cammy easily just got a refresh at this time and actually used that to have a mat advantage on everyone else. And Jake Buka does a very similar thing here. Rather than just sitting in his box passively and waiting for a kill, let's say end of first moving or halfway through first moving, which is quite difficult to get. And you've got to remember, there's no siphon. That's the major difference I'm talking about. There's no siphon to get a kill and then get into storm. You've got to remember that. It's better to try to look for a kill and a loot opportunity now when zone isn't moving, and then you can just worry about first moving having clean rotation. Exactly what he does here. Zone pulls back through his top, so he's going to go ahead and stay front side, get a nice early timing towards the front side of zone, and he basically sets himself up really well. Again, conserving mats very well, and also sticking to front side and playing Edge of Storm. And for finding refreshes in the current solo meta, Jake Buka does that absolutely perfectly. So first of all, you're going to notice he's in a 2x1 at the front side of low ground, and very crucially is this front box right here, the front of his 2x1 is in zone, right? So he doesn't have to move out this box at all. There's nobody that can go ahead and hold him from front side later on. And he is quite simply just looking for opportunities, and each opportunity, as you can see here, he gives it like a few seconds to actually look for it, and then he goes ahead and looks at something else. He looks backside for a second, he looks at this guy rotating front side, and whenever these opportunities don't come through, he doesn't commit to them. He's not over committing his resources, spraying, getting hyper focused on one person. Instead, he's looking all around, and you've got to remember, this is the red line of zone, where, as you can imagine, all of these other players have to come into this exact box, or this exact sort of line right here across zone, and they have to rotate into Jake Buka. And that's exactly how he finds his kill. Right here, somebody's rotating over the top of him, two players actually. One of them goes ahead and dies. He tries to get the mats, and Jake Buka very simply just gets the mats from the kill. You've got to remember, refreshes and solos aren't always going to come from you full piecing and 200 pumping it. A lot of the times it's going to come from you just getting a hold kill and then running back in storm, or even in this case here, somebody dying on the box that you're in because you're in a good position. You're on that front side 2x1 on low ground where one of your boxes is in a really good position for next zone. He gets the slopes and a bit of the mats from it. And you can see here, he plays this absolutely perfectly. This front box is in zone, so he's able to go ahead and just pop a mini and a slurp, the zone swaps. Now he pops a slurp, and when you've got a slurp on, always remember that you can tank storm. So right here, rather than running straight into storm, which is a lot of players are going to be expecting, there's a lot of edits that aren't his. Instead, he makes the call to run around in storm, and very crucially here is he commits to this left-hand edge of storm the entire way through second moving. I can't tell you guys how important it is in a no mobility meta to stick to an edge of storm that you know. Stick to the left-hand side here and wrap yourself in. And also, very crucially, is he sticks as front side as possible. He's not delaying himself by pausing. Instead, he's getting himself into a nice position here, tries to refarm some of his mats, and wants to stick to front side. And then now, again, look how he's set up in this position here. He's in a triangle box, right? So it's basically a 2x1 with an extra box to the side, and all three of these boxes are in a perfect position to look for another potential kill, another potential refresh, and there's a lot of angles to do it. You can imagine there's walls all around him, he's got all the edits below him, he's got all the edits on top of him. He controls so much space where you can find a kill from, and very crucially, this front box is in the end of the zone, perfectly set up to not have to overrun out of his box straight away. Now, as we come to third moving here, you can see the advantage of having this extra space. It's obviously, he could have looked for a kill. Unfortunately, the layer isn't too good to look for a kill here. And to be honest, he doesn't actually need a kill just yet. So take a look at what he does with this extra space that he's got. First of all, is he figures out how he wants to rotate this zone. He doesn't just rush out his box and put himself into a bad situation. Instead, he spends a second even thinking about tanking some storm to plan out his rotate here for a second, and then go ahead and get to first of all, a good edge of storm, which is absolutely crucial. Remember, always stick towards an edge of storm. And then thirdly, going ahead and actually sticking to a good layer. So you see he gets down a couple of layers, so he's not going to be looked at by height. He's not going to be on one of these layers here where you basically have to full top, and he gets himself down to a really nice layer where he can just very conservatively build and go ahead and look for a potential refresh opportunity. Also, a very nice thing that he does here is he's never letting himself get caught up on backside, as you can see. At no point here is Storm on his back and forcing him out. Instead, he always has a few seconds breathing room where you can go ahead and rotate in for free, and then go ahead and while he's rotating for free, cut off low ground exactly like he does here. He cuts off low ground, he's one above low looking for a kill, again on that sort of red line zone where people might be coming into him. How he doesn't commit to staying in these spots. Instead here, there's a really nice call, seeing that this guy is looking away, to go ahead and sprint, get down on low ground in the front side box on low ground, and then trying to start looking for a kill here. It might not seem like the best rotate ever, especially because he went through 500 mats, but you've got to bet he didn't take any damage that entire rotate, only took about 1 tick of storm. He's still in the best situation in terms of heals, and he still has 280 wood to easily find a refresh later on, and you only need a few refreshes if you play your mats as well to actually win the game. As we get into fine moving here, zone actually pulls sort of worst case for Jake. A really good pull obviously here would be pulling towards him where he's boxed down on front side low, but as you can see, zone pulls completely max away from him. There's a lot of people down on low ground and down around him that could make this rotate difficult. So what does he do? Instantly, whenever you're on a solo endgame and you need to get out of a bad situation, just go up layers. He instantly runs off a few layers here, cuts off a few people, puts himself onto front side on a good mid ground layer right here. And at this point in time, he needs to start looking for a kill. And this other guy is just focusing with a heavy shotgun, so he does a good job of just making some space, not letting the guy focus him too bad. And he's going to play this med mist right here to try to find a kill. And again, you've got to remember, you do not need to be killing somebody to find a kill, if that makes sense. You need to be looking for an opportunity to third party somebody else getting a refresh. Again, 9 people left. There's been a lot of people fighting down on low ground or dying in a box on your lair. It's exactly what he does here. The guy who was focusing him with the heavy shotgun, he looks down at him, and both of them end up going down storm. Again, remember, no siphon. If people are fighting back in storm and you shoot them, they are going to die as long as you have white stick out of storm. So he goes ahead and drops down right here, gets the flopper, and instead of playing the mid mist as he runs in, which I'm sure a lot of people would, he just commits with that flopper to just running straight into storm, which is a really good play, right? You can see he gets into storm, he's able to build and cover himself instead of taking any unnecessary damage. It's going to get him jumped in on by somebody else, and then now as he gets into storm, he's able to get his slurp juice off, and he has a whole load of mats from the 2 siphon and some of the wood that he got from those kills back into storm, as well as almost a full mid mist to try to play for heal off right here. At this point in time, all he needs to go ahead and do is just try to claim front side low ground. And what I've always said in these solo victory cash cups is just try to get it down to a 1v1, right? Don't try to overcomplicate it. And when there's 4 people left, try to get another kill and try to pop off and win the game, you know? Instead, just wait for it to be 1v1 and then try to win your 1v1, right? 3 players up, what does he do? Just sits down on low ground, waits for it to 1v1, and then now he's in a 1v1. And I'm going to be honest, he doesn't play this perfectly. He sort of panics a little bit. The other guy's got a mem list, he's not that healthy. He could have easily just played this a little bit slower, ran back in storm, and then tried to take the fight later on. Instead, he uses some of his last builds, tries to take this heavy shotgun 1v1, and they both got heavy shotguns, which is very awkward, as you can see. Gets a little bit scuffed, but he's able to win it just because the guy was low HP and he'd been fighting, whilst Jake was just sitting down on low ground on 200 HP. Became very close at the end, but that's all you need to do. If you guys can imagine, over the course of a season, you put yourself into 10 1v1s for the win. It doesn't matter what sort of RNG you've got, how nervous you get in those 10 1v1s from playing these cash cups almost perfectly, really good fundamentals. You're going to be winning a few of them and getting earnings consistently. And that's pretty much what Jake did. I think he earned like $1 grand in the past few seasons just from playing these solo cash cups and full try hard on them in the opens, which is very important, as well as in the finals, playing every single game with a really solid game plan and really solid fundamentals.